Hello and welcome to part 4 in our series on better IELTS, where we can learn small things that we can do to improve our IELTS results, but in fact also to improve our general English ability. Today we will focus on speaking mistakes, and I hope that when you do participate in an IELTS exam, you will never make these 5 IELTS speaking test errors. Just before we get started, let's look at the format of the IELTS speaking test, consisting of 3 parts. First part is introduction and overview, what we call the warm-up questions. So questions such as your name and where you're from and so on, just to get the candidate to relax. The second part is an individual long speaking part where you will be given a topic, some time to prepare your thoughts on the topic, and then an opportunity for you to talk about this topic. Third part of the speaking test is a two-way exchange between the candidate and the examiner. All right, this just helps us to prepare in our minds for the IELTS speaking part. If you are ready, we can get started with today's 5 tips or speaking mistakes that we should never make. First one, when the examiner asks a question such as, do you have any hobbies? And you answer, or you say yes, or you say, my hobby is reading books, and then don't say anything else. The mistake that you make here is that even though you answer the question, your answer is too short. You just don't answer at all, which means that you perhaps cannot speak English, or that your answer is just completely too short. Yes or no answers are bad. Short or too short answers are no good. We should use the chance, the opportunity, I want to say, to show off our English ability. So how we do this is by talking. Talk, talk, talk. Here is an example. Examiner, do you have any hobbies? And then the answer, I have a number of hobbies, but my favorite is reading. At the moment, I'm reading the last in the Harry Potter series. I find that reading helps me to relax while simultaneously helping to improve my English. When I get an answer like that from a candidate, I know several things. The one is I know that they really understand the question, that they did not memorize the answer, and that they have an ability to speak English rather well. I can also see that they have a good vocabulary of the English language. And all of these things will earn you points in an exam. What is the principle? The principle is to remember that this is a speaking test and there is no wrong answer. You can talk as much as you like, and you should talk as much as you can without, of course, talking too much. There is talking too much. There is not a wrong answer. What are your hobbies? Reading, walking, nature, collecting something. It doesn't matter. The only wrong answer that you can give here is a no answer or an answer that is just far too short. Remember, it's a speaking test. Another mistake that students make, and I've seen this over many years of examining students myself, that they just repeat the question in the first sentence. So, question, do you agree that students nowadays are easily distracted by their mobile devices? And then the student answers, yes, I agree that students nowadays are easily distracted by their mobile devices. I get nothing out of this. This is an answer that gives no information about the student's English ability. This it just shows me that the student is like a parrot, just, or a mirror for my words. I cannot gauge the student's understanding of the question. I cannot gauge the student's ability to speak English, uh, this is just really a very bad mistake to make. Parroting the question wastes time and it earns you no marks whatsoever. And by the way, this is a habit that students also have. I've seen this in written exams, again, over many years and in many different classrooms, that students spend time and effort to rewrite the question. And that just wastes time and it cannot earn any marks because they are just repeating something that is already there. Remember, in a speaking test, we want to know what is your ability. We want to understand what is your own English level. What is the correct way of answering a student like this? Here is one example. Question: do you agree that the students nowadays are easily distracted by their mobile devices? Answer: I agree. Whenever I attend a lecture, I am amazed to see how many students focus on their mobile devices rather than on the speaker and carry on like that. That shows me that you understand the question. That shows me that you take an opinion. You could also say, I disagree. It doesn't matter to me as an examiner if you agree or disagree, but I want to see why you agree or why you disagree. And this is where we can start to test your English ability much more effectively. What is the principle? The principle is that your answer should show your understanding of the question. It should not show your ability to repeat the question. We want to see whether you understand the question and if you can give a good answer to that question. It's like what I said earlier, there is no right or wrong answer, okay? You can agree or disagree, that doesn't matter. But it is how you answer the question that we are looking for here. Next mistake. Oh, I've seen this also so many times, and I hear this even in presentations by students. In my opinion, I personally think like it's a bad thing. I think when like students play with their like mobile devices in class. And by the way, can you spot the spelling mistake? This word like that people use is, I want to blame the American TV series and movies, but really it's a filler word that adds nothing to what you are saying, and it really becomes irritating when you repeat it a lot. We mistake that we make is overusing words and using meaningless phrases like in my opinion I think that. You can just say I think that. That means in my opinion. So it's kind of redundant. It's a phrase that repeats itself. Learn to speak precisely. Learn to use the language accurately. All right? Use vocabulary correctly and avoid fillers. This is why, or one of the reasons why it is so important to have a good vocabulary. Next mistake: bad pronunciation. Here is an example of bad pronunciation. I walked along the canal while regarding the reasons I put the emphasis on the wrong syllable. Very difficult to hear what the person is saying if you did not have the words in front of you on the screen. Now, we must understand that there's a difference between pronunciation and accent. Accent is whether you sound like an English person or an American person, or whether you sound like a Chinese or Korean or Japanese or Thai or South African or New Zealander. That is your accent, and everybody on earth has an accent. Pronunciation is not accent. Pronunciation is how we pronounce the words. Keep this in mind, that I don't want to listen to your accent and try to think that you are American. You don't have to fake an American accent or a British accent. I don't care, and any examiner worth their salt will not care about your accent, but they will care about how you pronounce the words. All right? I walked along the canal while regarding the reasons I put the emphasis on the wrong syllable. That is what we are looking for, the correct pronunciation. Principle here, and I quote from My Fair Lady, the movie. There is a song, "The rain in Spain stays mainly in the plain." Learning how to pronounce the words properly. All right. Pronunciation and dictionaries are a great help, and obviously, online dictionaries on the internet can show us how to pronounce a word properly. Next mistake. Tell me more about your hometown. And then the student just stares at you, stares into space, making some noises like something like that. And this is something that I sadly have seen more than once in English exams. The mistake is saying nothing, perhaps because you are completely unprepared. You don't know what to expect. You somehow think that you don't have to speak English. All right. The principle that we have to keep in mind is practice, practice, practice. Prepare for the speaking test. Practice your English. Practice saying your words and your sentences. And that is why it is so important to create opportunities where you have the chance to speak English, because that's the only way that you learn how to speak English and to do well in a speaking test. Before we finish today's discussion, if you find this helpful, please hit the like button and please subscribe. There will be many more videos added to this. I am trying to complete every week to complete a couple of videos and to add it to this channel. Anyway, let's just summarize what we did today. Preparing for the IELTS speaking exam. Remember that it's a speaking test. You have to speak as much as possible in the time that is allowed. Show your understanding by answering the questions, not by repeating the questions. I cannot emphasize enough vocabulary, 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 and connected to that, pronunciation. Don't worry about your accent. You will sound Chinese or Japanese or Korean or South African or Kenyan or whatever the case may be, Russian. That does not matter. What matters is that you pronounce the words correctly. And practice does make perfect. Whenever you have the chance to speak English, practice your English. And that's the end of today's video. Thank you very much for paying attention and staying until the end. Have a lovely day and see you next time.